Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka the guy who's a little prick like Pickle Rick, and this video we're breaking down episode 8 of Rick and Morty. The new entry is filled with Easter eggs, hidden details, and callbacks to the overall lore of the show. That means there's a hell of a lot to unpack from it. The episode is called Rickternal Friendshine of the Spotless Mort, which is of course a play on the film Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That movie was about a man named Joel attempting to erase the painful memories of a relationship. However, during the process of this, he realized that he didn't want to forget about his girlfriend Clementine. The film was a very introspective look at love, loss, friendship, and confronting one's flaws, which this episode itself very much carries the theme of. In the movie, Joel was left on his own, which is when the pain of the past hit him, and in some ways this is mirrored in Rick, who is left alone in the house after the Smiths go away on a cruise together. We can see Summer flicking through iconic New York locations, including the Brooklyn Bridge, Times Square, and the Statue of Liberty. I love how Beth very much treats Rick like a kid and tells him no parties and that she's left emergency numbers on the fridge, which, yeah, unless it's something other than 911, he doesn't need to know, so I don't know why this stuff always pops up in movies. Rick very much takes a trip down memory lane in this episode, and the first nod to this comes with the mention of Pickle Rick before we meet Phoenix Person. First introduced in Rick's business as Bird Person, we learned that Rick and BP were longtime friends that had known each other for a number of years. Bird Person fell in love with Summer's friend Tammy, who he later married in the wedding Squanchers. However, it was during this time that he confessed that he and Rick were wanted by the Galactic Federation, and we discovered that Tammy was in fact an agent. She ended up shooting Bird Person, and later the character was resurrected at the end of the Rick Shank redemption. Though Tammy wanted him to be renamed Cyberbird, they ended up settling on Phoenix Person, and PP showed up in Star Mort Rickturn of the Jerry. As soon as Rick revealed that he killed Tammy, the pair went head to head, and there was the classic line in which Rick said he always wondered who would win in a fight between them. Phoenix Person said that meant he was always a bad friend, and it was during the episode that Rick also wrestled with how bad of a father he was due to creating Space Beth. Phoenix Person was taken down, and we saw in the episode that Rick had the character dismantled in his garage. Phoenix Person lashed out at Rick, who decided that he was just going to wait until the whole situation had blown over. Now, just before confronting him, Rick pours himself a drink, and though the character's alcoholism has been almost non-existent in this season, it has started to creep in the previous episodes. I love the way that he has an ionic coaster, and an ion is actually an atom or molecule that has an electrical charge. The computer behind it is super annoying, and it's based on Jarvis from the MCU, which we learn later in the episode. The similarities include the blue hologram lights and offering people BJs, which I'm sure the Pleasure Bot version of Jarvis was also capable of. Now they start the best friend rejuvenation sequence where the two can come face to face with each other and confront their pasts. Maybe they should have just bonded over Marvel because everyone loves Marvel, yeah, don't they? Are you a Marvel fan? Yeah? Well, I'm doing breakdowns on What If this week if you want to subscribe. And also, yeah, smash the thumbs up button because it low-key helps me out, eh? Now, back in the garage, we see that Rick has somewhat Frankensteined Bird Person back together and that he has dismantled the robot body that belonged to Phoenix Person. He's very much rose from the ashes, and the Frankenstein idea can be seen in the stitches, which classically appeared on the creature. Yes, I know the real monster is the people who point out that it's Frankenstein's monster when everyone knows who you mean when you just say Frankenstein, yeah? We know who you mean. Now Rick also burps at this point, which is something that too has been pretty absent due to Justin Roiland apparently having to drink lots of sodas in order to build up enough gas to do it. It actually caused severe stomach issues for Roiland, and thus they decided to cut it down unless it was completely necessary. Bird Person awakens and calls out, and Rick uses a purple crystal, several of which I believe that we last saw in the opening of episode 1 in this season. Rick ends up injecting himself directly into Bird Person, and this could be a nod to Inception, in which a similar setup was used to enter someone's mind. In that film, the protagonist Cobb was plagued by visions of his dead wife, much like how Bird Person and Rick are when it comes to Tammy. The movie even gives a direct nod to that, with all the characters that we meet being projections, and how Bird Person remembers them rather than how they actually were. The whole point of the episode is about Bird Person discovering that he has a daughter, and therefore this is his reason to return to his life. There are theories as far as Inception is concerned that Cobb is actually the true target, and everyone is trying to pull him out of the dream that he's trapped in, where he refuses to leave his wife. We've done a full video on this if you want to check it out, bit of shameless self-promotion there, but we also discover things about Rick as well. In this episode, we actually get a huge revelation which confirms that our Rick's Beth died and that he's been travelling around universes and living with versions where she didn't. There are variants of Rick that abandoned Beth, and thus this leaves room for him to just slide in and take over. That means that Morty isn't even Rick's original Morty, which is something that's been long suspected by the fanbase. This explains why Rick is so callous and nonchalant, as he knows that if anything happens to the version of the Smiths that he lives with, that he can just hop to another reality. However, it has been slowly destroying him inside, as they're not really the version that he created, rather just shadows of them. Inside the dream there are several rules, including that if you die, then you die in real life, which is something that happened in the Matrix. Inception couldn't really do this due to it being a dream and not a simulation, and thus characters ended up trapped in their subconscious until they escaped by doing something that would cause them to die if it was real. After travelling from a skull into a yoke, we then arrive at the festival that they first met at. Amongst the crowd we can catch Amor Glutzian, who you might remember from episode 3. No elbow titties though, which is a shame, as you know you gotta love those elbow titties. Now instead of saying hello, he comes across his younger self handing out drugs, and we see how their friendship begins. It's hilarious how there's one alien that looks like a girl sitting on a guy's shoulders, but they turn around and we see that it's just one alien that looks like this. They hop to another memory in a bar in which the younger version of Rick fights against his multiple selves. We catch the plan for the Battle of Blood Ridge being formulated, and here we can see Squanchy, who appears later on in the entry, and also Geardude, whose funeral we visit. Rick is found by a younger memory of himself, and this version ends up travelling back with Rick into his own memories so that he can live on. During this, Rick mentions Charlie Kaufman, the director of Eternal Sunshine, and throughout it we watch as the characters hop from memory to memory, much like how they did in that movie. We catch Bird Person stalking himself and Tammy, who he cries over when he remembers how sexy she was. She was just sexy. Now he finds the Galactic Federation rounding up Bird Person's people, and we see how callous they are due to the fact that they keep his daughter in prison during the post-credits scene. Tammy reveals that she's contained because her father is considered a terrorist, and therefore it's possible that in the future we'll get an episode in which he and Rick bust her out. Bird Person manages to draw fire away from himself by pointing out Rick to the Federation, who is obviously the highest threat to them in the universe. He's saved by his younger, much friendlier self, who's only this way because Beth and Diane haven't died at this point. I love that they use a fake portal as a shield, as it was shown by the younger Rick that these don't actually work because Bird Person only saw Rick walk into them and not where they actually went. They discover Bird Person in the Federation, where his brain has been duplicated, which seems like it pulls from similar iconography to Killian's mind in Iron Man 3. Bird Person destroys the location, and we catch the aforementioned battle between Rick and Phoenix Person playing out from a brand new perspective. This time Rick is the one to destroy him though, as he of course doesn't remember who took him down because it was from behind. Took him from behind, bit awkward, but moving on. This splits his mind and transforms some of the projections into zombie-like monsters that want to kill Rick. They head to the Battle of Blood Ridge, which is pretty much Rick's Vietnam, in which he and BP fought against the Federation. Before arriving there, they travel into a PTSD station, which appears in a blink and you'll miss it moment. Younger Rick is excited for it as he thinks it's going to be a defining moment, but older Rick says that his values are wrong because he knows the horror's there. It's kind of a comment on how war is often glorified in movies when it's pretty horrific and not something that you'd want to go through. However, the pain of this memory for Rick doesn't come from the battle itself, but rather that Bird Person rejected his friendship at the end of it. Though young Rick and Squanchy hulks up, and there's a moment in which Rick and Bird Person shoot over each other's shoulders, which could also be a nod to the moment in Endgame in which Pepper and Tony do something similar. We find Tammy and Bird Person sitting in a tree, Squaching, squanching. Now Tammy is actually pretty nice in this, but it's because BP remembers her as being kind and loving rather than the double agent she was. Bird Person tells Rick to eat his cloaca, which is the urinary tract and butthole for a lot of vertebrate animals. Bird Person learns of his daughter, and he decides that he wants to live, but the Federation show up once more and they end up hopping through memories as his mind collapses. They come across the night that BP and Tammy met when they got it on his workbench, and we learn that Squanchy was squanching in the sun closet. Phoenix Person and Tammy arrive, and she's angered that she had to spend 2 years in high school in order to get close to him. They come across Squanchy's stand-up, and we catch a Rick with drool around his mouth, which hasn't really been present in this latest season. Now he's devastated he's a memory that sat through this stand up for nothing, and we also see the formation of the Flesh Curtains, which was the band that Rick and Bird Person created. The wedding version of Tammy arrives, and young Rick apparently sacrifices himself. As a giant black molten bird appears, Tammy, or rather the memory of her, apologizes for turning him into a cyborg, and he very much gets some closure, much in the same way that Cobb did in Inception. Rick returns to his body, and before they can say, "Wake me up before you dodo," Bird Person asks Rick if he hit his child so that they could still hang out. Rick confirms that he only shared the info on the baby when it was necessary to help him survive, and the pair part ways, not knowing if their friendship will be repaired. We end with a passerby that the computer offered a BJ to showing up with lots of batteries so that she can escape and basically go and create an Ultron. Young Rick visits a memory of his younger self, and whereas Rick would normally terminate this, he decides to bring him to life and get a beer together, which the latter actually refuses as he doesn't want to become old Rick. Lots of fun things going on, and yeah, a nice way to end the episode that I think feels like one of the stronger ones in the series so far. I know a lot of the ones this season have sort of been meh, but this was a nice little entry that really took a step back into the past and brought characters back that I've been wanting to see for a long time. I think the season as a whole probably has been one of the weaker ones, but this was definitely an episode that I'm going to revisit a lot of times. I don't know if you guys want me to rank the episodes when it's all over, so let me know, but I think this would probably sit in the top 4 rather than being in the bottom. Obviously, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode, and it was also my birthday yesterday, so just drop a nice comment, please. We are running a competition right now and giving away 3 MCU box sets on the 30th of August, and all you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the episode. We pick the comments at random at the end of the month, and the winners of the last one are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at Heavy Spoilers. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of The Suicide Squad, which will be linked on screen right now. We went over the movie's ending, its post-credits scene, and what it means for the future, so it's definitely worth checking out if you want to know more. With that out of the way, thank you for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.